Hey guys, what is up? Reese here, and I've got a brand new sneaker pickup to show you. What we're looking at is the Nike Air Command Force. This is the white, black, wolf gray, and Volt colorway. These release in the US on November 8th with a retail price of $200. Now these were originally supposed to release on October 18th, but that release date ended up getting pushed back, but only for the US, which means that overseas, like European retailers, got these on October 18th. And that's why I was able to pick up a pair and get them before the US release. I found them at a European site, in my size, shipped. They were just over retail, and I really couldn't pass that up because this is honestly one of my favorite sneakers. I love the design. I love a lot of the things about it, and I didn't, would I be able to get them in the US? Probably without much struggle, but I just figured for the price, couldn't really go wrong. Went ahead and ordered them. Got here in about a week, and I'm very, very pleased. This was David Robinson's signature sneaker, and this particular colorway was made famous by Woody Harrelson, who played Billy Hoyle in White Men Can't Jump. This was his sneaker. Back when these originally released, this colorway was white, black, and hot lime, but now this hot lime color they're calling Volt. And to me, this is just everything a 90s basketball sneaker wanted to be. It was a crazy high top. You've got kind of a lot of different materials and a lot of different design aspects going on. You've got the hits of color, and you've got kind of like the gimmicky technology in the air pump unit. And although I call it gimmicky, the air pump's actually really cool. This was the second of 3 Nike shoes to feature an air pump. The first was in 1989. You had the Nike Air Pressure. And that actually came with a hand pump that you would use to pump up the shoes and fill up a bladder around your ankle to help kind of provide a customized fit and feel, customized support. In 1990, these came out, and their big claim to fame was the built-in pump right here on the side, so you didn't have to carry around that extra pump. In 1991, these were followed up with the Air Force 180 pump, which was very similar. It was a similar high-top build. You had the built-in pump, built-in release, although the release moved over to the side. But their biggest claim to fame was the visible 180-degree air sole unit instead of just this smaller visible unit. And those were the 3 pump shoes. Now, the other 2, the Air Pressure and the Air Force 180, have both been brought back in recent years, although they did not feature the pumps. They were more of a mid-cut. And to me, I don't know, like, if you like that design when they brought it back, great, but that's not actually bringing back the shoe if you're taking out one of the key components that made that shoe. So I'm really happy to see these coming back with a fully functioning air pump. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that, and it's just something really cool to have. These are crazy high. I put them next to my Kobe 9 Elites. They're just a hair shorter than that. They're a good deal taller than a pair of Matumbos. So pretty much they are way up there. But there's just something I like about this design. It's not, I like the colorway too because it's not too crazy. Just a lot of white and black. But then this hot lime or Volt, whatever you want to call it, does really set it apart. And I'm just really glad to have these. Now, one thing, people have been kind of bagging on the quality. There aren't that many videos out there, but a lot of the videos that are, they touch negatively on the quality, and I don't see what the big deal is. Obviously these aren't at all the same quality that the originals were. We could complain about quality all day. It's not going to get us anywhere, unfortunately. We'll have to see what the Jordan Remastered series is like, but I'm not going to hold my breath. But honestly, as far as current releases go, I'm perfectly happy with these. People were complaining a lot about the leather, but to me this leather is much better than what we saw in the White Cement 4s or the Bugs Bunny 8s. Those had a real cardboard feel. And this, while still a little cardboardy, is a lot better than that. The shoes are plenty comfortable, for me at least. I'm really happy to have, like I said, the air pump back as well. And then the other thing people have talked about is the tongue squeaking, and it does squeak a lot, but that's kind of what happens when you have this thick, wide leather tongue that rubs up against these softer linings. That's just going to happen. I haven't had a chance to actually see a pair of the originals, and they were released 3 years before I was born, so I just haven't had any exposure, but I have heard that the originals actually squeak too. The retail price of $200 is definitely a lot, and it seems like a lot, but the one thing I will say, and I'm not saying whether it's justified or anything, just pointing out, these were originally $130 in 1990, so if you do the inflation calculation to get the equivalent price in 2014, it would be $235. So I'm definitely not saying Nike's cutting us any deals, but it's just people were talking about that. But in my mind, it's not that big of a deal. I was perfectly happy to pay $200 for these. I think they look nice. I'm excited to wear them. I really like the pump. But if that's not what you're interested in, if you think it's overpriced, you don't have to buy a pair. No one's going to force you to. So that's my little spiel, but just getting back to the shoe, the one thing I want to say is even though, since I was born after they released, I don't really have a great way to have a connection to them, but it was interesting because there's this band I like called Firehouse. They were a rock band, or they are a rock band, but they were popular for a very brief time in the early 1990s. They actually won an American Music Award as the best new rock band, beating out Alice in Chains and Nirvana, which is funny because now most people have heard of Alice in Chains or Nirvana or both, and not many people have heard of Firehouse. It's just interesting how that works out. But anyway, my dad liked Firehouse, and so when I was in middle school, I found a couple of his CDs, and they became my favorite band. And so I remember I was watching a live video from Japan in 1991, and the shoes the lead singer was wearing really stood out to me. I just remembered they were crazy high tops, mostly white with a little bit of like a yellowish green at the back. And this was before I was into sneakers, so I didn't really have any good way to like figure out what they were, and I just kind of moved on. But when I saw that these were releasing, I saw images, the first thing that popped in my head was, I remember watching that Firehouse video and those shoes looked familiar. So I went back and I watched the video, and it turns out this is the exact pair, the exact color that he was wearing in that video. And, it's something super minor. Like, it's a weird connection to have, but for me, that was just another connection I have to these shoes. The fact that before I was even into shoes, before I cared about them at all, they stood out enough that 5 or 6 years later, I would remember that. To me, that was kind of cool. So with all of that said, let's get into a close-up view. I'll show you materials, colors, the air pump, and kind of everything that's going on with this massive, crazy shoe. Here we go with a close-up view of the Nike Air Command Force in the white, black, wolf gray, and Volt colorway. Your upper is made up of two main materials. Starting up here at the toe box, you've got your leather. And if we look here at the toe box, you can see it's perforated, very much like an Air Force One or an Air Jordan 1. Something to keep in mind is if you're worried about creasing, these will actually probably crease. So if that's something that you're concerned about, something you want to protect against, definitely go to like your local sneaker store and get force fields or another similar thing that you would slide in to protect that. I probably won't get that. Those always hurt my feet really bad. But if it's something that's concerning for you, if you really don't want them to crease, that definitely is a good option for you. Like I said, the quality of the leather really is not bad at all compared to what we get today. Like you can see, it's pretty responsive. It's not like bunching up or looking like you're just bending cardboard. I really don't have a problem with it. It's comfortable enough for me. It's not original quality leather, but again, we don't see that anymore. So I don't know why people are getting so butthurt about it. I think, for me, like I said, perfectly happy with these. I wouldn't have even said anything if other people hadn't been complaining. Here you've got more leather wrapping around the toe box, up along the side, and then right here is that second material. It's kind of a plasticky material, plasticky, rubbery. You can see there's some slits cut for ventilation. You've got it up here also around the eyelets. Black swoosh. If we look here, you've got a little bit of like a nubuck synthetic material in black. White mesh tongue. It's very tightly knit mesh. And then the top of the tongue is leather. You've got white leather, and then it's got Force along there and your Hot Lime Volt, and that's outlined in black. I've been lacing these. I'm gonna lace these fairly loose, kind of like this. And when you do that, it actually reduces a lot of the squeak. It's just kind of when it's like tighter in that you'll hear that a little bit more. And even then, it's not too bad. So that's that. If we look back here at the heel, you've got this wolf gray leather right there, Nike Air in a nice blue color. It's a nice accent color you see throughout the shoe. Pull tab right there, a little bit of black mesh. Inside of the shoe is very much the same. You've up here on the higher parts of the shoe that you've got these three eyelets in that blue that we saw back at the heel. Got that on this side and on this side. Now kind of the main attraction of this shoe is the pump. You can see right here is the actual pump unit. Here's kind of like below it is part of the bladder. You've got part of the bladder over here, and then also at the heel, and then this is the release. Real quick, and then this is like where the air intake is as you're pumping. So here we'll just pump that up a bit. Pretty simple to use, nothing too crazy. You definitely can feel it. I didn't notice it right away, especially when it's loose, you won't notice it right away, but when you release, you'll definitely be able to see, oh wow, did a lot. So then we can go back here, just press this in, and you could hear the air kind of depressing. You've got more black mesh right up here, black kind of corduroy style lining right there, lined. You've got a Volt insole right in there. That about does it for the upper of this shoe. Now let's go to the midsole. You've got white up here and then black kind of top line running along, starting in the middle. There is a air sole unit up here in the forefoot. It's obviously not a visible unit. Back at the heel, you've got your visible, larger air sole unit. You got your little window for it right there. You've got right here, you've got your hot lime, and this isn't like an elephant print. This isn't a cement print. This is more of a paint splatter pattern, which I really like. It's one of my favorite parts of this shoe, and I like the paint splatter way more than I like something like an elephant print or a cement print. But honestly, that might be just because we don't see this very often, but you see, you know, those other prints on a lot of things. But I think it's just a really cool design on here. Really, really well done. Looks nice. You've got that. Inside is basically the same. You just got more black right here in the middle for the midsole. That about does it for the upper and the midsole. So now we'll just flip out here. You've got wolf gray at both the heel and the toe. The toe is kind of starred, reminiscent of the Air Force One. Those stars aren't coming up really clear, but you got the star pattern there. This little section of hot lime or Volt, another section back here. That blue accent color with your Nike, your swoosh, and your Air. Then white here for most of these sections, and back at the heel you got just typical herringbone traction. But yeah, all in all, that about wraps it up for the shoe. Like I said, I'm really, really happy with these. I think it's a really nice design. Like I said, I'm totally pleased with the quality. I was happy to be able to get them when I did. Look for these to release again on November 8th here in the US. Keep that date in mind if you're going to be looking for a pair. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. And thanks for watching. Make sure you have a great day, guys.